What's going on, y'all? It's Cone back here again today with another video, and today we're breaking down another first round playoff series. This time we're going to be talking about Knicks versus Cavs, which, like Kings versus Warriors, which I dropped a video on yesterday, make sure to go check that out if you didn't, is one of my most highly anticipated first round series. This is one that I think could be an absolute bloodbath. It's one that's very close, and I think these two teams match up very, very well. It's also one that we've had a lot of time to think about because it was by far the first series to be locked into place, and these two teams have been in the same positions, the 4 and the 5 spot, since basically the beginning of March. So it's felt like these two squads are on a collision course for the majority of the past month and a half. Yet I'm still super excited. Like, the length that we've known that this series was going to happen, you think would take away some of the hype, but it hasn't whatsoever. There is so much that goes into this series, and so I had to make a video breaking this one down. But of course, we have to begin with talking about how these two teams got to this point in the first place. We're going to start with the Cavaliers, who had a very interesting offseason last year, missing out on the play-in tournament after being one of the best teams in the Eastern Conference when fully healthy. Darius Garland became an all-star, Jarrett Allen became an all-star, Larry Markkinen gave them some good play as well. Evan Mobley was amazing as a rookie, coming second place in Rookie of the Year voting and being one of the best rookie defenders that we've seen in quite some time. However, due to injuries to him, Jarrett Allen, and others down the stretch, the Cavaliers ended up missing the playoffs through the play-in tournament. But it was no big deal because they were one of the youngest, best up-and-coming teams in the entire league, had an elite young core of multiple all-stars, with Evan Mobley seemingly going to become one sooner than later. They would also have Colin Sexton returning from injury the next year after he missed basically the entirety of their campaign. However, the Cavaliers decided to accelerate that timeline just a little bit by trading for Donovan Mitchell in the biggest blockbuster of the summer, and right from the get-go, many people thought that the Cavaliers were going to take a big jump, me included. I, before the season, predicted the Cavs to be the 3rd seed in the Eastern Conference. They ended up at the 4 spot and were just dominant all year. Mobley was incredible. He's one of the top candidates for Defensive Player of the Year. Darius Garland once again played up to an all-star level, even if he didn't get that selection. Jarrett Allen was incredible. The supporting cast grew and improved over the course of the season. But most importantly, Donovan Mitchell probably had the best season of his career. He was a dark horse MVP candidate basically the entire season, and it's seeming pretty likely he'll end up on All-NBA first team when the voting is finished. So this Cavs team is stacked with talent not just now, but for the foreseeable future. They have one of the most incredible young cores that I've seen in all my time of watching hoops. On the other side, we have the New York Knicks, who also missed the playoffs last season. However, while the Cavaliers felt pretty good about the spot that they were in, they had a really bright future ahead of them. The Knicks' position felt a lot more bleak because the year before they were the 4 seed and they tried to build off of that. Julius Randle, 1 point, seemed like a future building block. He was an All-NBA player, the most improved player. Last season was a down year. RJ Barrett wasn't really improving. They had some solid young guys on the roster, but it still felt like they were falling a step behind most of the teams in the Eastern Conference after that really disappointing season. However, they decided to go out and sign Jalen Brunson away from the Dallas Mavericks, someone that felt like he was a perfect fit at the point guard position and gave them a floor general that they desperately needed. They also tried to make another splash as they were the main people talked about in a Donovan Mitchell trade before the Cavaliers came and stole him away from them. Everybody, me included, thought that Donovan Mitchell was going to be a New York Knick. It was just a matter of when and what the package looked like when they eventually made the deal. However, he was instead sent to Cleveland, and New York once again seemed to be on the verge of maybe making the playoffs. However, Jalen Brunson exceeded all expectations, or at least mine, becoming a all-star caliber guard, even if he didn't end up making it. Julius Randle bounced back to once again be an All-NBA caliber player. Emmanuel quickly stepped up to become the 6th man of the year. So many other young guys in this roster grew and stepped up in the place of other players as well. Quentin Grimes, for example, was amazing this season. Deuce McBride gave some solid minutes as well. RJ Barrett is still inconsistent but continues to show flashes. Mitchell Robinson was solid down low. Obi Toppin had some big games. This team just really grew and stepped up, next man up mentality, and overall the New York Knicks shocked everybody. They made it as the 5 seed in the playoffs, bouncing back from a absolutely disastrous year last year, even though they didn't get Donovan Mitchell in the summer. Weirdly enough, there seems to be a lot of similarities between these two teams. They're young squads that last year missed the playoffs, and this year came into it with a new big acquisition in the offseason to shatter most people's expectations for what they could do. Both teams have had amazing runs up to this point and are very well set up for the future, yet only one squad can win the series, so let's go ahead and talk about that. But first, let me quickly paint you a picture. Imagine that you've decided to travel to see your favorite team in the NBA playoffs, or if they didn't make it, you've decided to just go see one of the many great series like Knicks versus Cavs in this first round. Ireland. You get to the airport to fly out and decide, I'm going to connect to some Wi-Fi to watch some other playoff games, or maybe a 3-cone video. Hopefully that's the option that you choose. However, the internet speed is slow, so whatever you're trying to watch continues to buffer, which is frustrating enough. But even worse, by connecting to public Wi-Fi like that, you're putting yourself at risk that potential hackers and other threats could steal your personal information like your passwords, which is a terrible way to start off any trip. And this is exactly why you should check out NordVPN. NordVPN is a really easy to set up VPN that does a lot of cool things. It can speed up your internet connection, it encrypts your data so that it can't be stolen on public Wi-Fi networks, it can even allow you to access content that you couldn't otherwise if it's restricted in your country or current location, like things on Netflix or even some sporting events. Nord is huge for me personally because I travel a lot, and so I want the best internet speed and the best internet safety, whether I'm out at an airport streaming a Thunder game, or even better, tweeting out my Thunder propaganda tweets during a Thunder game that I'm watching. And speaking of travel, Nord also helps you find the best prices on flights and other travel methods when you connect to it, which is huge if you're trying to save money on that potential playoff trip. It also blocks intrusive ads, blocks malware, and is ridiculously easy to set up. Additionally, you can have it on up to 6 devices, so that's your computer, your phone, your laptop, and 3 other devices of your choosing. Plus, thanks to Nord, I've got a special deal for y'all in particular. If you go to nordvpn.com/3cone, you can get a 2-year deal at a discounted price with 4 free months as a bonus, all risk-free with Nord's 30-day money-back guarantee. Once again, that link is nordvpn.com/3cone. If I'm a good editor, that should be on the screen right here at the moment. I'll also have it in the pinned comment below as well as in the description, so make sure to go check out one of those links if you want to see what NordVPN is all about. And once again, it's an exclusive deal just for y'all watching this channel, all you real ones out there. I appreciate all of you supporting this channel, and I want to give a special shout out to Nord for being part of the video. Let's begin with a quick breakdown of exactly who these teams are. The Cleveland Cavaliers finished the season as the 4 seed, 51-31. They had a home record of 31-10, one of the best in the NBA, and a road record of 20-21. They're the top-rated defense in the league, while also being the 8th best offense, one of very few teams in the NBA to be top 10 in both of those categories. For the New York Knicks, they finished as the 5 seed, 47-35 on the season, home record of 23-18, and away record of 24-17. They're tied for the 3rd ranked offense in the league with the Philadelphia 76ers, and they're the 19th ranked defense in the NBA. In terms of their head-to-head matchups, the New York Knicks took the season series 3-1, most recently beating the Cavs on March 31st by 14 points, in a duel where Jalen Brunson and Donovan Mitchell each had over 40. Now to take a look at some of the biggest keys for this series. I think the number one thing that jumps off the page is the guard battle in this matchup. You've of course in Cleveland got one of the most potent offensive backcourts in the entire league with Darius Garland and Donovan Mitchell. As for Garland, we haven't yet seen him in a playoff scenario, but he's shown me nothing to make me believe that he isn't going to show up and be effective, so I do believe that Garland's going to have a pretty good series, even if it's not quite up to his regular season standards, because it is his first playoff appearance. I still think he'll be pretty good. Meanwhile, with Donovan Mitchell, we already know that he is an elite playoff performer. He's not someone that shies away from the spotlight, and when he's given the opportunity to go ahead and carry a team, he's going to do exactly that. In his 39 playoff games, Mitchell averages 28.3 points per game, 4.9 rebounds, and 4.7 assists. He's had 250 pieces, he's been to the second round a couple of times, and he's pretty much always delivered. Trust me, I would know. I watched my Oklahoma City Thunder lose to him when he was a rookie. He demolished us. Obviously, this could be a problem for the Knicks because they don't have anybody that matches this level of playoff performance and experience that Donovan Mitchell has. However, Jalen Brunson is no slouch of his own. Last year, against the Utah Jazz, he carried the Mavericks while Luka Doncic recovered from injury. He dropped 21.6 points per game, 4.6 rebounds, and 3.7 assists over the Mavericks' Western Conference Finals run. He was amazing, and I truly believe he's going to step up just like that again, even though he's playing on a big stage as now kind of the number one guy on the team most nights. I think he's going to step up to the occasion, be incredible, and he's going to match a lot of Donovan Mitchell's production, even if he's not quite up to his level. I still think that he'll be able to offset a lot of what Spida does. That's just how much I believe in Brunson. Next, let's talk about the defenses in this series. The Cavaliers clearly have a pretty big advantage, being the number one unit in the entire league on that end. Of course, this is mainly due to them being anchored down low by Jarrett Allen, who's a shot-swatting big, but also Evan Mobley, who, as I believe I mentioned earlier, is one of the top contenders for Defensive Player of the Year. Having these two elite defensive 7-footers down low makes getting into the paint basically impossible, and they can also step out and decently hold their own on the perimeter too. For the Knicks, they're going to have to be able to consistently knock down outside shots, because I don't think getting inside consistently is going to be an option. Unfortunately for the Knicks, they have the 10th worst three-point shooting percentage in the entire league this season, although they do take the 8th most threes, so they shoot them a lot, and if they're able to get in some kind of rhythm and knock them down at a higher clip than they did during the year, it could go a long way to the Knicks being successful. However, if those shots aren't falling, it could be a very long or even very short series, I guess, for the Knicks. Meanwhile, for the Knicks, their defense is a big question mark. A couple of years ago, they were a top elite defensive unit when they made the playoffs. Now they've completely flipped the script, going from an elite defense to a below average one, while going from a pretty poor offense to one of the best in the league. It's been a crazy 360 that they've gone through in just a couple of years. Their defense this season that they're playing involves a lot of really aggressive rotations and switches. It often leads to a lot of three-point opportunities as well for the opposing team, which isn't the worst thing against the Cavaliers because they do shoot the 7th least threes in the league this season. However, they are tied with the Bucks for the 10th highest percentage, so if the Cavs are getting a lot of open ones, they may just continue to shoot them, and if they knock them down to high clip, that is a big problem for New York. However, there is one defensive area that the Knicks have the advantage in, and it could be a big one. The Knicks are way better on the glass. The Cavaliers are actually a pretty poor rebounding team comparatively to the Knicks, which might be surprising because they start 2 7-footers, but it's true. The Knicks beat them pretty comfortably in that category, especially on the offensive glass. They average about 12.6 offensive boards per game, the 3rd most in the league, while the Cavaliers average 9.7, which ranks 20th. This was a big issue in their last matchup, which saw Cleveland let Mitchell Robinson rack up 9 offensive boards himself, while Cleveland had just 3 as a team total. If you give an offense as good as the Knicks all these second chance opportunities, they're going to make you pay, and ultimately, if the Knicks can dominate the offensive glass, that gives them a massive edge in this one. Another advantage that the Knicks do have is their ability to win road games better than Cleveland. While the Cavs have been one of the best home teams in the entire league this season, their road record is below 500, while the Knicks are pretty comfortably 5 to 7 games above 500 in both the home and away categories. So if the Knicks can go into Cleveland and steal a game early on, which is difficult but definitely not impossible, it puts a lot of pressure on the Cavaliers to execute at Madison Square Garden away from Cleveland, where they've kind of struggled. Finally, to wrap this up, I want to take a look at a couple key players that we haven't really talked about as much in this video. Beginning with RJ Barrett, who has been wildly inconsistent over the course of pretty much his entire career, but in particular this season. There are some nights where we get this high-level RJ Barrett that's engaged defensively while also knocking down his shots, and then there's some nights where it seems like RJ can't hit anything and he's somewhat falling asleep on defense. If the Knicks can get a high-level, consistent RJ Barrett, it makes this series a lot more manageable, especially because he's going to have to take some of that pressure off of Randle if Mobley's giving him some trouble, and he may be tasked defensively with guarding Donovan Mitchell and even Darius Garland at some points. If RJ can step up, it's huge for the Knicks, and hopefully he is able to. Speaking of inconsistency for the Cavaliers, what version of Caris LeVert do they get? Another player that seems like some nights he's absolutely unstoppable, and then some he almost forgets how to play. Are they going to get a consistent high-level scoring Caris LeVert, or is he going to disappear? Going back over to the Knicks, I'm really excited to see what role potential 6th man of the year Immanuel Quickley does play in this series. During Jalen Brunson's recent absences, Immanuel Quickley has stepped up big, had 30 pieces consistently, knocking down shots, playing high-level defense. Immanuel Quickley is really underrated in my opinion, and if he has some great defensive possessions against the 2 lead guards while Brunson's on the bench, it can make things a lot more difficult for Cleveland, and I do think that Quickley is going to give them some issues. Additionally, I'm excited to see how Quentin Grimes plays in this series because he's another defender that the Knicks can throw at Donovan Mitchell and Darius Garland, as well as Josh Hart, who since coming to New York at the deadline has been amazing. He's the perfect Tom Thibodeau player. He's going to give you hustle, rebounds, defense, and overall just seems to always make the right play in the biggest moments. If he can also play some high-level minutes too, the Knicks' depth could maybe help them overpower Cleveland. With all that being said, I guess it's time for me to finally go ahead and make my official prediction, which is always the hardest part of this video because I think this is extremely even. I think we're in for a really fun back and forth physical series that has the really fun added narrative of Donovan Mitchell, who is going up against the team that could have had him on the team that did end up snagging him away. The Knicks have a chance to prove that, hey, we didn't need the Donovan Mitchell trade and we held on to our assets for maybe another star down the line, while the Cavs can go ahead and say, hey, we are the better young team, we got Donovan Mitchell, and we're going to dominate this conference for years to come. I think Tom Thibodeau versus JB Bickerstaff is also a really fun coaching matchup, and these two teams are honestly pretty well set up to go up against each other. I think they counter a lot of each other's weaknesses. You've got an elite defense versus an elite offense. It's going to be fireworks. And regardless of who wins the series, these are two incredibly young teams that have very bright futures ahead of them. So if I don't pick your team, I apologize. Just know that I think your team is going to be very successful in the near future. And so my official prediction for this series is that the Cleveland Cavaliers win in 6 games. I think Donovan Mitchell is just a bit too much for this Knicks defense to handle. He's shown time and time again that he's going to level up when the playoffs do roll around, and I think he does exactly that. I think Mobley and Allen are set up well to counter Julius Randle, and I do think Brunson has an amazing series, but that ultimately it will not be enough to counter all the other advantages that Cleveland has. I also think just overall as a team, the Cavaliers are a more balanced squad. They're a top defense as well as being a top 10 offense, and being top 10 in both of those categories is usually a pretty good indicator of success in the playoffs long term. However, I do want to reiterate to Knicks fans real quick before you type your angry comments below, I do think they can win this series. If Randle wins the Mobley matchup, Brunson is as good as I think he's going to be, and RJ Barrett plays consistently, as well as you get some solid play from the role players, the Knicks can pull off this upset. They are no slouch whatsoever. I just like the Cavaliers a bit more. I think they're the better team and ultimately will win this series in a really hard-fought 6-game matchup to face the Milwaukee Bucks in the second round, which will be one hell of a series in its own right. With all that being said, I appreciate you all watching. Make sure to leave a like and subscribe if you enjoy, as well as hit that notification button so you don't miss out on any of these videos. Y'all's support has been amazing. We're going to continue to have these playoff series breakdowns as this week goes on, so comment down below any more series you want to see me cover, and of course I will also be covering the play-in matchups as well, so make sure you subscribe to not miss out on those either. With all that being said, I appreciate y'all watching. I'll see y'all later. Real one safe back.